Thank you, HipHopHuis, for inviting us, and Black Soil Film Festival. We're so happy that you're back to doing what you do. It's so important. Festivals like this are so important, especially after the 2 years that we had, the pandemic that is still very much going on. Yeah, we wish you all the best. So, like I said, my name is Lyse Ishimwe. Originally, I live in Brussels, but I'm originally from Rwanda. I've been in Brussels for way too long, for 13 years. I'm a film curator, and I'm a photographer. And I guess I can consider myself a community builder as well through film screenings. I will talk a little bit about myself during the conversation. But I want to give everybody here on this panel a chance to introduce themselves. And while you're introducing yourself, you can tell us a little bit about what community means to you. Thank you.
Everybody's looking at me. My name is Selwyn. I'm from Curacao, but I live in Holland right now. I'm a documentary filmmaker. And yeah, community, what's the meaning or what links the community building with film? My experience with it is bringing people together on my island, not here. So coming from a very small island, it's like a very difficult, making a film is already a hassle, and you have to kill a lot of, I don't know, to sell, I don't know. But and coming from a small island, it's more difficult because there's a very small film industry there. So the community building is more important than also when you make your film. So I don't know if I need to explain how my process went with my film or the films, but maybe
That would be the second question.
Yes. So that's it's very important to make films for the community also.
Yeah, thank you.
So my name is Aissa Traoré. I live in Rotterdam, and what got me into film is because I wanted to act. I wanted to act, but there were no roles for women of color. And the roles that I did get me as far as being in commercials. However, I wanted to do more. Of course I want to be in movies and series, duh. But because the lack of diversity, I was like, F it, let's create it our own. Let's create our own web series. And that's how we started. We have a show called Monoheart and Adam Talk Show, where it's a panel with 8 people, and my colleague is the host, Whitney Mwanza. And then we have for Monoheart that 4 men on the table are sitting and talking about their feelings and stuff. But that's how it started off for me. We started off in a atelier, like a small studio in Hoogvliet, and they broke in, and then afterwards we moved now to our recent place in Rotterdam South, which is a monumental office, because I was like, you know what, if we're gonna go big, let's do it bigger. So it's a risk. It's still in like the beginning phase, and I'm still looking for people to do it together with. However, what means community to me, as far as the idea started off, I wanted to act. However, we have an African saying, as a fellow African, if you want to go far, you go together. Like, if you want to go fast, you go by yourself, and if you want to go far, you go together. And that's how it started off. It was something that I initially wanted because I didn't see people like myself. But I was like, you know what, I might have a bigger impact behind the scenes, and that's how we evolved. Having web series where you have minimum of 4 people or 8 people of color from different walks of life, and then we had show after show after show. So I'm creating that platform whereas we see ourselves. So that is community building. If there's a lack of representation, take everybody with you to represent. And that's how we did it with Afro-Dutch Powerhouse, which is myself, Whitney, and Helena. So that's community building for me. You can't do it by yourself.
My name is C.R. Capers. I am the founder and executive director of the Harlem Film House. And we exist to provide access, opportunity, ownership, and equity for creatives in film deserts around the world. Our biggest program is the Hip Hop Film Festival. We are going into our 8th year. And we offer 365 days of programmatic activity to support and nurture creatives in their spaces wherever they are from. And that's how we create community, by providing the resources that creates economy and ecosystems. So for any production, there's above the line and below the line, right? Oh. We have above the line and below the line. So if you're above the line, you still need resources, regardless if you are working for a big network or if you got a series. A lot of the filmmakers that we work with, they also have their own passion projects. So with us, particularly being from the culture, we don't care who you work for. We don't care what you did. It's what you're doing now. And if you already have a film made, then that's done. We're focused on what's to come and what's to come after that, and how to support you, your crew, and your families, right? So that's how we build community, that's how we build support, by creating economic ecosystems within our community and the global community. So it's not just about the United States for us, it's about the world, and that's why we're here.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to the economic ecosystem after, because I think it's such an important way of looking at community building. I think what I would like to know from each of you was the genesis where, because the idea of being a community builder or working within community is really something that you have to have passion for, and also an understanding that it's not just something that you can do 1 year and then kind of let go. It's this long-term commitment to the project, to the work. And I would like to know from your side, when did you have like this spark of, saying, I need to create something? Because I think all of us, when we go into, especially from the European context, we are very much aware that there's so many things that are lacking for our communities. And, there are things that we definitely want to happen, but it only takes a few of us to say, you know what, I'm the one who's gonna do what I need to do to make a difference. So I just wanna know from your side, at what point did you have this spark, this idea of making a change, and how did that happen? So the beginning.
So yes, before I went to the film school, I wanted to make a film that feels like a event, and like how to say it, yeah, like it's not like a film, going to a film and then it's like making something that strengthens the identity of the island. So I was searching for a story that will do that. So yeah, after a lot of years of searching, I found a subject, and then I worked like 5 years on a film, and because I didn't want to like wrap or edit it and just screen it, and that thing that I did a film. I want to make a film that will have the effect of bringing people together, and not only on Curacao, until people on Curacao, but also until people abroad, out of Curacao, and so yeah.
What was the name of this film? What is the name of this film?
Oh,
What
the
is
film, yeah, it's called Atari. That means the afternoon. And yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so. The importance of this film is not making a film for the international market, but for the community first. So that's the strength of the film. If you make it for your own people, then it can go abroad. But if you make it for abroad, so that's the strength of the film, and that's a thing that's something I hold to when I'm creating things. Is if it's not for my people, then it's not. Then it's not. It needs to be first for the people, and then. And the success of the film for a small island, so yeah, it went not viral, like this, but it did very it travels very film festivals, and aired also on the national TV here, and did also ITFA, and that was not the plan. So that's the beauty of not having a screening plan, but have like a mission, like you said, with yeah. That's it. You know.
For me, the spark started when I was very young. My father was a Black Panther, and this is when it became a little radicalized. Huey P. Newton had gone on to start robbing banks to feed the community, and so it was a crucial time. So my dad hung out with him, H. Rap Brown, and they got into a lot of shit. Can I curse? Can I curse? Okay. So, so they got into a lot of shit, basically. My mom was Indian, devout Baptist, but also a follower of Martin Luther the King, as we call him. So two very distinct ideologies, but one thing that they agreed upon was the power of propaganda. TV was not allowed in my home at all. I had to sneak to watch TV. We were only allowed to watch television if there was a Black person in front or behind the camera, and then they had to be represented in a specific way. So my mother couldn't understand how I knew about the Dukes of Hazzard and why I loved Bo and Luke Duke. You have to be, anyway, look it up. You'll understand why this is a terrible thing and why I was almost disowned. Anyway, coming up with that, I saw myself as a certain way. Family full of beautiful, heavily melanated, amazing, glowing, moisturized people. We have a very pro-beauty way of looking at ourselves. So when I came out into the world didn't see me that way. And I didn't get out into the world until I was in college. I came out of my bubble. I realized the world looked at me a certain way, and I was like, well, why is this? Why are white people treating me like this? I don't understand. And what hurt even more was the self-hate that I experienced from other Blacks around me. And as I delved deeper into it, I found out it was because of that they had learned about themselves through what was coming out of their screens, the propaganda that they were taught. They weren't seeing themselves as images of beauty. They weren't raised how I was raised. So it was a constant fight and struggle. So instead of being depressed or letting it consume me, I decided to fight it. I'm from activists. So we see a problem, we solve it, and we solve it within the community. So that's what sparked what I do.
Ooh. Amazing. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because it's true that when we are talking about when you're talking about your film and wanting to make the film for the community and thinking about bringing people together, I mean, the idea is that you are bringing people out of their home to show them something that kind of confirms their beauty, their place in the world. So it's really powerful for you to say that, and also very important because that's literally what we are trying to do. And for you, Aissa, too, when was the spark?
Yeah, like I definitely felt like triggered by what she said. Oh, can you hear me? No? No? Am I not talking loud enough? Do I need more volume, bass in my voice? Yeah, what triggers me about it, because it comes down to also the first time that it triggered for me when it came to the self-love. When I was about like 8, 9 years, I got the chance for my birthday to get, we call it baby born. That was the baby.
It's a doll.
It's a doll. Baby born. So it was really like, that is the doll you wanted to have and you had to have as a girl growing up. So when I finally had the chance to go to Bart Smit, that's the Dutch toy place to go to, once you wanted something big for your birthday and mom is gonna spend on you like that, I was standing there and I got to pick, and there was a black baby born and there was a white baby born. Now, in my mind, I wanted to take the white baby born. But looking at my mama, I was like, she's about to whoop me. Let me take the black baby born. Because for her, it was so natural to think like, obviously you're gonna pick yourself.
Yeah.
You know? So for me, it was like, I'm gonna take it because I'm scared of what she might say or do. But in that moment of time, actually what she triggered, which later in life came back to me, is that she triggered the research that was done. Like, if I'm correct, 17 years ago, there was the the baby doll test that was done among 17 African children. Yeah. Also in the Netherlands, they did the same test, and those were African children. And I realized I'm one of those kids. I am one of those kids. And what my mom did at that moment of time, it was like, obviously you're gonna choose yourself. But in my mind, I had like, white is better. Yeah. And black is not, because of propaganda, of what I saw on the TV. It was always the white baby born that got promoted. It was always the white baby born that everyone had, and then I would have to go for the ugly black baby. And what she has instilled in that moment of time is to be aware that you choose yourself first. And that's why, for me, it is a purpose to serve a community so that multiple people will choose themselves. We would say in Dutch, wij mogen er ook zijn. And that means we are allowed to be here too. So that is what I feel that is my purpose, to normalize diversity, because we might have not grown up with that idea. We had to teach ourselves, and I hope with the little part that I play in this world that I'm able to do the same for others. So that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well said. And I think it's also a kind of a nice segue into understanding that we are called to do the work that we need to do to make not the world, but just kind of like the ecosystems that we find ourselves in, the community that we find ourselves in. And like I mentioned earlier, the idea is that because I'm doing this out of the love for myself first, and for my people, I understand that it's not just something that I can do and kind of let it go, or kind of, let it kind of disintegrate. It's a calling, and it's a long-term thing. And I really like the work that you do, because CR, because it is not just kind of putting on a festival each year, which is already a lot of work, which is already an important work. What you do seems to be kind of activities that are long-term focus, and it's also not just a year basis, but it's throughout the year, where people feel like they have the services and the resources to kind of continue going on. And I wanted, if you could tell us more about when did this idea of having this kind of like long-term focus and services and resources for people in your community, because on top of that, it's not just the time that it takes, but it is also really demanding as well, because just putting on a yearly festival requires so much time, but then to kind of do that on a long-term basis, it's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
So the way that it works for me is, how do I put this? I got my start because I started a podcast. Jesus, I'm about to age myself. This is before YouTube, or when it first started, right? Being a daughter of the culture, I need to be first, I need to be the dopest, and my shit needs to be fly all the time. So within the same constructs, of course. So I started a podcast because I was told that I was too black to be on network news. My dialect, I wasn't able to mimic how newscasters speak. I speak in my own way, and I refuse to speak any other way. So I started a podcast back when YouTube first started and Facebook first started. We blew up super big. And I wanted to create a commercial. So I created a commercial, and then I noticed all the other people that had started podcasts and blog talk shows. They then started mimicking us because we were the biggest one, right? So I said, oh, hell no. We got to go get a camera. We're going to do it even bigger. We're going to make this big-ass commercial. Didn't know anything about filming. Just grabbed a camera. We went to the store called B&H, grabbed it.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, we're going to write this commercial. So we wrote the commercial, and we did it. Put it on YouTube, and back then, viral was 1,000 views. Like, think about that. We got that in spades, right? Because we had already built a community of people that were listening to us talk shit every Tuesday at 10 p.m. And they loved it because we were talking about social ills and politics from a hip-hop perspective, right? So then other people started trying to copy the commercial. Can't have that. So I said, fuck it, we're going to make a short film that's a commercial, and we're going to go out, we're going to kill them. So we go out and we do this thing called Ceely's Revenge. We said we're going to take a snippet of The Color Purple, the table scene, and we're going to do it. But Ceely is leaving because Mr. won't let her listen to my show, right? We filmed the whole thing. Oh, my God. Brilliancy, right? That's a new word. I've just made it up. Brilliancy. Put it out, and I'm like, you know what? Because at the time, I was making a lot of money working where I was at. And I was like, why don't we rent out the biggest theater in New York City, Times Square, through this whole big thing, raise money, and give it to an organization in Harlem? You know, so I met with this woman named Jackie. She had this organization called Harlem Mother Saves. They had lost their children to gun violence. And I was like, you know, I'm going to put some bread on top of it, and we're going to get everybody to chip in, buy tickets, come out, have a good time. Did it, it was a success, right? Then people started asking if they could buy it in other countries. So I was like, sure. So I set up some OTT platform, was like, here you go, here you go, here you go. Money that came in, gave it to Jackie, right? Raised Matt Loot. Filmmakers started to hit me up because they couldn't understand how I did what I did because they were working inside a machine. I didn't know about a machine. And if you would have told me about a machine, I'd have been like, oh, I would have been discouraged because I didn't understand what you guys go through. I just came in like a bull in a china shop and was like, fuck it, we're going to do it. And we did it. So then the filmmakers were like, well, how did you do it? I said, we just fucking did it. Go to the camera, get a camera and shoot and point and get some lights and make sure you can see the people and make sure your sound is good. So, and then they, well, how are you making money? I sold to the people. I gave them a mission. I gave them a purpose. And I made them activists just by purchasing a ticket. And then it became, well, teach me how to do that. And then here we are, 8 years later. Here we are. It grew big. We're international. But it came from the seed of someone saying, we have a problem. There's a machine that's holding us down. And can you show us how you did it? I was completely unaware that there was a problem. Completely. I just knew that if you want to do something, you do it. And when you do it, you make sure everybody eat. And that's it. So this festival is, this organization is basically, it shouldn't be called Harlem Film House, it should be called Let's Eat, because that's what it's about. So we eat as a community, we all eat together, we keep it moving, and we just keep the cycle going. That's it.
And yeah. And one of the ways that you eat, or one of the ways that the filmmakers get to eat is, for example, the fact that you're bringing that you brought 8 films to Amsterdam and to Rotterdam. Is this one of the ways where you keep the work going, that it's not just staying at the festival?
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So after filmmakers come into our festival, we also slate them for acquisition or screening. So anytime they're screened anywhere else around the world or picked up, they get a share in that. So like if someone says, hey, we want this film for our festival. Okay, well, there's a screening fee for our folks. And mind you, our filmmakers, half of them don't know about that. So I'm like, here, I want to screen your film. I'm going to Black Soil. And they want your film. How much do you want to screen for it? No one's ever asked them a question before. They'd be like, well, I don't know. How much can I get? It's just like, keep it easy, be easy, because you want to get invited back now. But that process is crazy to them. And then we have a whole streaming network that's business to business. We're not trying to compete with Netflix or nothing. But the films that are on that platform exist so that those filmmakers can be acquired by Netflix, by HBO, by NBC, by other festivals. And that's how we keep them eating. So if you submit to our festival, you're automatically in this catalog of films that can be sold. So we've effectively created our own film market. This is nothing new. Yeah. Nothing new at all. But what is new, and how we created a blue ocean, is that these are stories from the culture. These are the stories that make you sit and think. Like, we just came from the screening where you saw like 8 shorts. Right. Throughout all those shorts, you laugh, you cry, you feel it. You're like, oh, there's sci-fi, there's a Tupac sighting. There's like all these types of stories that are being told that are wonderful and beautiful. You know what I mean? So why shouldn't they have the same value that Seinfeld has? A show about goddamn nothing that we love. You know what I'm saying? But if I have a choice to watch a sci-fi story about Tupac actually still being alive and told from my voice and my perspective, you think I'm gonna watch Seinfeld? No, I'm watching where Tupac in the diner cooking up cheese sandwiches? Oh, I'm trying to see that every day. You know what I'm saying? So it's important that they be acquired so that they can continue to create. And that's how we create those opportunities and that community so that they keep coming back and they stay encouraged to keep creating films. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, my work as a film curator, so I have a film program in Brussels, and I try to bring African films, Afro-American films, and it's sometimes so funny, like when I contact the distributors or the directors, it's always like, oh, you want this film? I'm like, yeah, I want this film. So it's sometimes, it's like there's sometimes the curiosity as to why you want the film, and then there's also the literally like no response to the emails. And a lot of the kind of like the film industry bullshit is that there's so many kind of barriers for filmmakers, because once you make the film, what sometimes filmmakers forget is that there's the distribution behind your film. And that is a whole other business that is very not well known. And so what happens that you make your film and the film just kind of stays with you, or it stays in one festival and it doesn't go anywhere else, even though there are so many people that want to see your film. And sometimes all it takes is being with the wrong people or the wrong distributor or the wrong producer.
Or not having your community
Yeah.
in the film from the beginning. It's like what Selwyn did
Yeah,
with his film was he created community around it. So it's protected, right? It's like having, when you have a film, it's like having a daughter, right? You have to have the uncles and the aunties and all of them around her, because otherwise when she goes out into the world, she'll get raped, pillaged, led astray, run amok, and all that. But if you are protected, no one can take advantage of you. They'll rather leave you alone than try to mess with your product, because they know that if they mess with Selwyn, he has a whole island of people that's coming for that ass. And that's what's important.
yeah.
Master P, notorious for how he got his come up. He sold his tapes out his trunk, right? And created his own distribution. No, he created a community around his music, a fan base. The marketing starts when you come up with that script.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we teach our folks too. So what Selwyn did, super dope, and how it should be done. The minute you start, you gotta start pulling community around your film. So when it's time for distribution, you run the show.
Yeah.
They can't say, oh, well, you know, we only give you this amount of marketing money because we don't know what it's gonna do. Oh no, I got a whole island. I got about 40,000 people that equal 40,000 subscribers if you put me on your network.
Yeah,
And that equals money, and I'm gonna need some points on the back end of that as well.
exactly.
But I'm gonna let Selwyn talk about that. I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. Thank you for that, because I mean, you're not only a filmmaker, you're also a photographer, and
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
there's something about also photography that we forget about, how that also builds community, because it is you documenting
Yeah.
particular people in their, you know, in whatever context. So if you can also talk about a little bit about your photography work, but before that, the idea of the film screenings and how that is still going, because you started a while back, and how that's evolving.
So the film Atari evening afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah.
It came out 2020, so I'm going to keep it short. So I went to the local movies. I asked him, you know, it's a local project, a local film, if we can screen it there. No, we don't do local stuff. Local stuff don't get enough viewers or visitors. So I keep pushing, and he told me, I'll give you 2 weeks, and then COVID hits, and then when they began to open again and receiving visitors, he said, okay, you have 2 weeks, and then you're done, because you know all the people is gonna come only for the opening, and then so the film screened like for 5 months.
Oh.
And he called me and told me sorry, and the film, so the film saved the company.
Wow. Wow.
Because people keep, and all ages and all classes, all colors.
Wow.
Some persons went like 10 times to see the film, because they don't have, we don't have a lot of things of ourselves
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
So that's the power of. So that's the screenings, and then the community here also in Holland heard about it. So.
Okay.
And here also the ITA, the International Theater, also sold out, and so we keep on, and people keep on asking me when there is a new production, when it's a new production. So I know it takes time,
It takes time.
patience to make good stuff. It doesn't go like that.
Yeah.
Like that.
But did you eat though those 5 months? Like, did he take you into the finances?
Of
it?
course.
Okay.
Of course, I make a good cut. uh, yeah, I had,
That's a good question.
definitely, definitely. Curacao, Aruba, and uh, Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good
Okay.
food.
That's a good deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And about photography, I photograph. I always have a camera, small, big, wherever camera, underneath my car seat back on the island.
Yeah.
So I I photograph like every day. Uh, and without knowing, you have a big chunk of
Yeah.
collection of people because I shoot a lot of portraits, and not only shooting people but also knowing what's happening on the island, like
Yeah.
within the community. When you take a photo, you also talk to the people and know what's happening from their perspective. So that's continuously doing research
Yeah.
of what's happening on the island and which direction we are going and
Okay.
yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and I excited too because I mean I'm very also interested in your process because you not only have the experience from, you know, in front of the camera, behind the camera as a producer, you're also a producer. Is that
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you then created the space Makers Opposite.
Makers op Zuid, yes.
Yes. Sorry, how do you pronounce it?
Makers op Zuid.
Makers
Yeah.
Opposite.
Makers on South.
Yes. Makers of the South.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I live in Rotterdam South.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And so this is something new. This is you started it in November this year or last year?
No, this actually right after the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that process of, you know, going from the camera and then actually creating this collective space for creatives?
Yeah, so basically, like, my experience on how I've gotten in film was because an old classmate of mine was like, Aissa, film would really suit you. Like, come work. And she was the one who pitched me, whereas I got, like, a leeway to get in film, got a foot between the door. So I started as a PA. And that was my way of, like, independently was able to work as an independent contractor. However, COVID came at a certain point, like after like 1.5 years, 2 years into it, COVID came and then everything was shut down. However, as an entrepreneur, you gotta make money. So after a few months in, knowing like, okay, we're not about to get a job anytime soon, because in the Netherlands, at a certain point, if you wanted to shoot a film, you had to have a COVID manager. So I got into COVID managing. And that's how I made my money for films to be able to continue producing. I was hired then as a COVID manager. And then at a certain point, I had a teststraat. You got to be creative, like find a way to make money. And that's when I took the risk after, like, okay, I've learned what I know now, and I use my tools right now to jump ship as far as taking the risk of opening, like taking an entire office floor and wanting to do this together with other people who are in film, that we have a place where we can work, co-working spaces, whereas we're able to draw productions and have the people that work there as a one-stop shop jump on that production. So when I was looking for this new space, because there was we got broken into, and the feeling of safety was gone. This was our old place. So I searched and looked for like 1.5 months. I called Ron van Gils. He called me back a month later because he heard my voice message and he was like, oh, I was going through my voice messages. So he called me back a month later. And we got to meet, and he was like, you know what, there might be one place where I actually, from screening you, think it would suit you. Because I was being bougie. I was like, you know what, I don't want no cheap anti-crack place no more. Like those, you know, I was like, nah, we gotta do better.
We deserve nice things, yeah.
We deserve nice things, because when you were like in an anti-crack place, or at least like, let's say we had a school building that was about to, like, after 15 years get destroyed and collapse. By the time you get to your own spot, because we did it cute though, we had our little room, we put what do you call it, wooden floors and stuff to make it look good. But by the time you get to your space, you gotta apologize for everything that they see in the hallway. Like, you really gotta be like, oh, sorry, you know, they just left it there. Like, oh, that may be a dead body, but I don't know for sure. So it was like, we now have to like consistently be apologetic before we get to our nice space, and people would come in and be like, oh, this is really nice. But you don't want to, you want to have them experience you from the get-go, very professional, very, you know, fake it till you make it. I say fake it till you become it, you know? So Ron, he observed me very well, and he connected me to his colleague, Stijn van Leeuwen. Stijn van Leeuwen has like 4 engineers companies. He has multiple businesses in Rotterdam and outside of Rotterdam International, and he had one place. So this was a monumental place, whereas the people who were in there were artsy people, but they weren't exclusive. And he was looking to put a party that would be exclusive. And I was like, yeah, that's me. That's me, you know, because the place is turnkey, it looks good, and you can actually receive high-end customers there. I was like, give me some time. Give me some time, and I can bring the people and everyone in it. So I'm actually right in that process. But because he gave me that chance, yeah, I got to get a television commercial that we shot above 70K, if I'm gonna drop numbers. Because I was so confident, I walked in there and I was like, yeah, we can do that TV commercial. And then what ended up happening is we got our team together. We got our team together to do it. But sometimes you just need one person to believe in you, to give you that chance, and then you can do most amazing stuff. Because my mom is first generational Nieuwe Nederlander. What we would say is when they're the first immigrants. So we don't have a legacy already that, you know, I have the contact of calling this company and that company to say, oh yeah, you know my mom, right? Like, we are now doing that now I have the network that if I have children, I'm able to give it to them. So for us is that we need people to believe in us, to give us that shot, to be like, you know what, you might not have the network yet, but here, I'll give you a shot, and then see the amazing things that we're able to do. So when that production happened, it's for me to now be, what's next? And to do it together with people. So the co-working spaces is that I want to have co-working spaces usually are people that are sitting there, have their own desk, and do their own thing. But I want you to have your desk, have your colleagues around you, and whenever there's an assignment, I ask you, like, yo, let's do this together. Let's do this gig together. Could you be the DOP? Could you be the writer? Could you be the, you know, the first AC, etc., so that we have consistent work. Because now, the reason why we were so vulnerable during Corona, because we're independent contractors, we have to seek for ourselves. I want to make the difference by having co-working spaces, whereas I can also help you get assignments, so that not every 2 months you got to check and see if you can still pay for your space, you know? We want to have constructual and duurzaamheid. How do you say duurzaamheid in English? Sustainability, that you have work consistently. So that is where my power lies, that I'm able to connect people. But we still just started off. So for me, it's even like a scary thing to do. However, I'm looking for the team to build the entire community with, you know? So that's why I'm even happy and so grateful for today, because I'm like, you know, HipHopHuis put it together, so I don't have to necessarily go and look and knock all the doors, because that's what I've been doing, lobbying. But now it's like, wait a minute, there are actually spaces that we see ourselves. Because just now, we were even talking that there's a stylist in this room, which as I did not know about. A French stylist, you know, who has African roots. And in film, I wouldn't have come across her, because I only have Dutch colleagues. So that's a beautiful thing to think like, oh, next time I'm gonna invite her, jump on this assignment together with us. Like, let's eat together. Yeah. So.
And it's you know, I mean, it's very generous of you to kind of give us that full overview of what you're doing and how you manage to have that space. I have so many questions regarding that, but I guess we can kind of discuss after. One of the other questions that I've had, and I have this for myself as well, is when I decided to create my own program, my big question was, who am I gonna be able to ask for funding? And I've decided over the years to do it by myself. I've decided to do other jobs which kind of fit into this work. And I've always felt like this work was not necessarily ready yet to have external funding. I mean, this is governmental or private. And perhaps I'm still holding on to it as like the little baby that I don't want to let it go. But in terms of funding, because I guess there are people here who have films or projects that are looking for funding, and I know CR, you talked a lot about, you know, kind of the things that you learned in terms of grant writing. Just maybe if you could share a little bit about how you've been able to think about funding as, you know, as a long-term plan, and who to partner with.
Well, in the States, it's different because they don't give black folk money for anything. You literally have to, I guess like anywhere else, you gotta like yell to the top of the mountains to even get someone to think about listening to you. And then when they do, there's like, let's say this table is a pie, right, of money. I like that idea. All of this, the majority of it is for the white folks. Cut a sliver right here, right? So how little that is, right? This little sliver right here is for all the black people. All the black people, everywhere. The rest of it is for all the white folks. What do you think is going to happen amongst all the black people with all the projects, from domestic abuse, all the nonprofits, from everything? What do you think is going to happen? Everybody's starting to fight over this one little piece of cheese that is thrown, is enough for 5 people, but is thrown into a sea of 5 million. You understand what I'm saying to you? So you can't rely on the pie. You have to create it yourself through community, through network, through whatever it is. You have to pull out your literal bag of tricks, and every talent and every waking moment you have to say, how can I still be on mission and still eat, entertain folks while educating them as well? So I figured out how to do that. That works for me. It may not work for everybody else, but you have to figure that out. You have to figure out, how do I eat without considering the pie that's on the table? How do I make it from scratch? So that's what we did. Like I said, we made the commercial, you know, we started selling tickets, so on and so forth. But at the time, I was comfortable. Honey, I was making 6 figures. You can tell me, shit. Okay, I was fly, I was moisturized, everything was cool, and then they laid me off. There is nothing more scary than someone pulling the entire rug out from under you. And I had a kid, I had a big-ass house, I had all of these things. My ex-boyfriend, God condemn him to hell, but he was good for this point. He said, you make millions for those people, and you only give them 8 hours a day. You have 24 hours for yourself. What can you do? I said, motherfucker, you're right. You might not be the worth shit, but you're right. Okay, that's why you were put in my life. So that's what I did. I took my severance, my contract. They gave me like 3 years salary, 1 lump sum. I said, cool. paid off everything. I paid for my daughter's tuition 2 years, and then I got her bread. I did everything. I took the rest of that money as my seed money, and I invested in myself. That money was going in a year. That money was going in a year. So then it's like, okay, oh shit, how do I eat? How do we eat? I got a kid to feed. And I really honed in on mission. And I said, you know what? I'm going to let go and I'm going to trust God, because if I stay true to what the passion is, if I'm really about it, if I'm really about it, of serving my community and doing what I'm supposed to do, the universe will take care. Yeah. Now, that philosophy may not work for everybody, because you have to really believe that. Yeah. You have to believe that with everything. You can't think about, oh my God, where's my rent going to come from? You have to walk in your purpose as if it's already taken care of. And that's what happened. Every time I said, hey, I'm going to do something, I did it. People supported. And I went to the community. I knew when we first started trying to get sponsorships and money and grants and stuff like that, they wouldn't look at us. And I said, you know what, fuck them. We're going to be so big that they're going to be begging us to give us money. Right. So now we're at that point where I'm like, I don't want your money. I can choose what I want to do. Yeah. I don't have to promote Hennessy and sell drugs to my people. You know what I'm saying? I refuse to have it at my festival. You come to my festival, you don't see none of that shit. You might see some rum, because I like rum. But you will not see Hennessy. You will not see any company that caused us to be where we are at right now as African Americans. You know, so I have a fuck you mentality. I may not have fuck you money, but I have fuck you mentality. And God always provides, right? Whenever we get to a point where I'm like, oh shit, I gotta figure something else out. God put someone in my life based on the work that we've already done to create a way out of no way. The last person that did that was that woman sitting right there. That's how God works. You understand what I'm saying to you? But before she came in, there was another one person that saw the passion, and they were that Peggy. And so it's been happening 8 years straight. And we're able to build and create and build and create, and then use the blessings that we get from this community, push it out to the world and say, yo, I met Philip, I met Peggy, yo, I met these dope people. I was on a panel where I was with Selwyn, I was with Aissa, I was with, yo, this is what they do. And that's how we continue to eat. So then the next time, it's like, hey, I got a contract to do this. Aissa, you want to come? You want to come with me? Ba, 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 ba. And that's how we work. That's how we create economy. And then you take those blessings, and then you give it out to others. So this is the last point, and I'll shut the hell up. My nonprofit in the United States, you can give it to another person so that they can raise money without the government on their ass. So I tell all my filmmakers, yo, use me. Use my 501c3 and go get your goddamn money. Just kick back a little bit as a donation, but make sure it's a donation. Don't pay us shit. Give me a donation so you get that money back on your taxes. Constant teaching of how to eat, how to use the fork when you get the food. You understand what I'm saying to you? So it becomes a community of eaters. So you keep eating, and the community goes bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you give back. You have to give back.
But that's also what I see, like in the States. There is just, America has a different contract with black people versus white people. That's why you guys have to build your own economy, even till this day forward. You know, like the great example you gave with the cheese, that it's only for 5 people versus 15 million people. And that's why, like, the economy isn't built on that. You guys have to build your own black economy in order to sponsor that. And in the Netherlands, we have a slight different system. However, it is still a system. Let's not get it twisted. After George Floyd, that's when diversity actually started really becoming a thing. But prior to that, there was the microaggression racism that we had on the job, at like with colleagues, etc. And even till this day forward, I still know that I need my white friends. And I call them, you are my white friend. That white friend who is going to be able to help me get closer to my goal, because I don't necessarily have to be the one in the forefront. Such as the producer, Reindert Gerding, he's from Rotterdam. He understands how the system works. He's like, Aissa, don't worry about it. Put me in front, and I'll have your back. And that is how sometimes you have to play the game in order to get it, you know? Because he understands that he can use his privilege, his white privilege, because it doesn't make you a racist, but you just have that privilege to be able to do so. Like, the difference between me and him is that he can walk into a shop and not get followed, whereas I can. That is what white privilege means. There's certain stuff you don't have to think about. However, it works in your advantage. And he understands if he can help me, that means he goes up front, you know, because he doesn't have to fight a war. He could just actually enter the door and then take me with him. So you do need your people to know, like, hey, listen, these are the benefits that I have, and I can help you get closer to that as well. So it isn't that, you know, being all the way pro-black is the only thing that we go for. It's to understand how the system is built in order to play that game. So that's why in the States it's more of a fuck it mentality, and here you gotta know how to play the game, especially with government money that sponsors projects, art, where you think like, what? But you know what though? It's all good. We need to know how are we going to get that. And then indeed you need your white friend. But they also take pride in it to know, like, hey, I'm helping you out with my privilege that I have. You know, it's not even something that he wants. It's pushed up on him ever since he got born into, you know, being a white person. So he understands the concept of we have systematic racism, but how can we, you know, still make it happen so that you get to eat at the same table? And that is how it works. You know, you got to do that together. That is not only that we as black people can do, we need each other, you know? And we have the soul, the stories. And when we put a story out, tick, tick, boom, it just goes because it's different. It's not the stereotypical, you know, love story. It's super different. Like on Netflix, Blood and Water. That's a South African story, you know, that is intrigued by so many people because it's different than what the Western standard is about. And yeah, with that being said, it has to do with the fact that look at the beautiful stories that are there, but not everyone executes it or exercises it, and that's when you have pioneers having to put it up. And then after that, we get to go very easily after you guys, but you guys have to really, like, you know, you gotta fight the war. Yeah.
Just short. So
Sure.
that's more of the production side of the getting money. But as a storyteller creator, if you want to ask the government or the funds, it has to be. They want to hear a white story.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you are black, you can make it, but it has to be it has to sell for a wider audience, white audience.
Yeah.
So that's a struggle for the black makers here in Holland.
Yeah.
If you want to tell a really black story, your own story, then you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
It has to
Be connected to them.
be
somehow.
gonna, so they gonna in the process they're not gonna tell you that they wanna tell it their way, but in the process they're gonna ban. So you have to be very alert in every meeting, every second of the productions to because money is not the problem, is the story
Yes.
that you're gonna, you know.
Yeah.
So that's but it goes together, you know. Story and money goes together.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
have to say this because he just
Say
triggered
it,
me.
girl.
Black Panther 2.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's get it.
I didn't even
watch it.
You organized a screening for it.
Black Panther. I thought.
Black Panther 2.
Which one? Black Panther 2. Gotcha.
Second
Wakanda
one.
Forever.
Yeah, Wakanda Forever.
Not the other Black Panther, but.
Unpopular opinion, I hated it.
We're gonna talk after because I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I organized
But
it.
I have an eye for propaganda.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying to you? I have an eye for propaganda. And the dismissal of a heterosexual black man that is the king with a G, the king. Hurt my soul. Not to say that women aren't powerful. We know who we are. What is doesn't need to be said. We create life, we're gods. But when you have a machine, it's powerful and it's well financed, it's Marvel that has the opportunity to tell a story and put in, it's insidious, to put beliefs in people's mind through a mere 2 hours. To have two nations of color fighting each other, to then betray all African tradition, to then make sure that the Black Panther was traditionally a male, even if you go by the constructs in the comic books. We're talking about traditional African society. You're going to throw all of that away for a young woman who's barely had her menses. And we know that if we're talking about traditional African stories and African traditions, that these things are key. Not only is the Black Panther supposed to be the king, the two are synonymous, and you have to fight for that privilege. So if you're going to tell me a story, tell me the goddamn story and tell it right. Don't play upon propaganda. I see you looking at me. But seeing all the stories that come out of Hollywood, the fact that they wouldn't even recast T'Challa, they wouldn't even give us another black hero. When I've had to sit through motherfucking 75 Batmen, 75
Superman.
Jokers, 75 Supermans, all of that. Christopher Reeves fell off the horse and was paralyzed. They had a new one in 2 weeks.
What about Spider-Man?
Spider-Man.
He got changed every month.
Heath Ledger died. He was the great white hope. They was like, oh, Joker got to continue.
So you know we're gonna have this conversation
I
after.
know. Just make sure
We're
we
gonna
got
have
our
this
run ready.
conversation after.
And have your
Only-
Vaseline. And well, you ain't got to put your hair back.
only because we're out of time.
Yes.
Only
But
because
yes,
we're
we
out
can
of
have this
time. They're
conversation.
gonna kick us out of here.
But I'm sorry, but have that discussion. It is
Absolutely.
important.
It's-
Propaganda.
it's important. It's
Woman King.
I didn't even bother.
You're leading her on.
I know you told me.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother.
But just to run things off, I'm sorry we didn't even have time to ask questions to the audience, but maybe I can ask this to everybody actually here, because you know the film festival, Black Soil, is kind of taking into account or showing some love to the architects, to the people that came before us, and to the people that are doing the work. And I want us to take some time to give a shout out to people who are doing the work, who are you admiring, show them some love. If you can just go around and, you know, give some people some love who are not here today.
I want to give some love to the contingent of folks that did the first African American festival here in these spaces in Warrington, Hudlin, and Eng. They're in my WhatsApp. I'll give you guys the information later if you want it. But his name is Eng, and he brought in a whole contingent of African Americans. And today, where we were at, they had the festival over 30, 40 years ago in the same spot. So shouts out to them, the architects, of making sure community building was happening, and we are right in the same exact spot.
make a shout out, do a shout out to Felix de Roy and Norman de Palm. They know who they are. Yeah, they see me here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Shout out to my mama for instilling.
Hey,
Shout out.
Mama.
Shout out. Indeed, because she leads by example. But definitely, I would say for where I'm at right now in life, first off, I want to give a shout out to Helena da Silva Matamba and Whitney Mwanza. These are the two people who started off the community with me. They believe in what we're trying to achieve. And then for where we are at right now in life, I would say shout out to Ron van Geel, Stijn van Leeuwen, and Douche Franse, because they're paving a way for us to actually make great things happen. So by the time next year, we are going to be bigger and better. Yeah.
Yes. And anybody in the audience? Thank you so much. Shout out to HipHopHuis, thank you. And Black Surf Festival, Philip, Haruna, Aida, all of you. Thank you so much. And enjoy your evening. I don't know if we have to leave the space right now. Yes? Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
We can fight outside. Let's go fight.